The void was silent. Not the ordinary, comforting silence of interstellar space, but the heavy, unnatural stillness that made even the most hardened crews nervous. Out beyond the rim of the Andoric expanse, a single cruiser floated among the stars, its hull glistening like polished obsidian. The Tvor Kesh, pride of the Olorian defense fleet, had been dispatched to investigate the anomaly, a lone vessel that had appeared on the edge of mapped space, a ship that defied all known registries. Captain Relthor stood on the bridge, his mandibles tense. The ship's scanners were already sweeping the unknown craft. "Report," he ordered, his voice sharp. "Preliminary scans complete," replied Science Officer Kever. "The vessel is strange, Captain. The hull is non-reactive to standard probing frequencies. Its alloy composition is," the officer hesitated, his four eyes narrowing. "Unknown. It resists every spectrum we attempt. No transponder signals. No life signs. No energy readings. It is silent." Relthor's mandibles clicked softly. A derelict, perhaps? An old warship from a forgotten era? But no, its design was unlike anything in the known galaxy. Its silhouette was long and angular, like a blade forged from shadow, with lines that suggested aggression rather than defense. "Approach," Relthor commanded. The Tvor Kesh glided closer, thrusters humming. The strange ship remained still, indifferent to their presence. The closer they came, the more details emerged, plating scarred by battle yet perfectly sealed, weapon ports invisible until seen at the right angle, its hull marked only by a faded insignia, a blue and white sphere split by longitude lines, primitive in style. The Olorian captain didn't recognize the symbol, but something in it made the back of his carapace crawl. "Begin a deep scan," he said. Kever hesitated. "Captain, if there are systems aboard." "Do it." The ship's scanners pulsed again, this time digging deeper, peeling away layer after layer of the vessel's secrets. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the bridge went dark. Warning klaxons blared as consoles flickered. The crew scrambled, frantically trying to restore power. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the lights returned, only dimmer, as though something unseen was watching them through their own systems. "Captain," Kever's voice trembled now. "The ship, it scanned us back." Relthor turned toward the viewport. The once dark vessel now glowed faintly, lines of white light running along its hull like veins awakening. And in that moment, a single signal was transmitted directly to the Tvor Kesh. Not words. Not images. Memories. War. They saw worlds burning. Vast fleets tearing each other apart. They saw weapons so powerful that stars themselves were turned into bombs. They saw soldiers in armor advancing through fire, unyielding, relentless, unstoppable. And through it all, they saw the ship, not as it was now, but as it had been, cutting through battle lines, leaving only wreckage in its wake. When the vision ended, the bridge was deathly silent. "Captain," Kever said slowly, "I do not think this is a derelict. I think it is a warning." Relthor's mandibles twitched, the alien equivalent of a shudder. "Transmit to High Command," he said. "Immediately. Tell them what we found." But even as the message was prepared, the unknown ship's engines roared to life. And it turned, directly toward them. Chapter 2, The Warship Awakens. The Tvor Kesh lurched back, thrusters burning as Relthor shouted orders. Full power to shields. Evasive maneuvers. The alien crew obeyed, but the mysterious ship didn't fire. It simply moved, silently, like a predator circling its prey. Its wake sent ripples through space itself, disturbing gravitic fields as if daring the Olorian vessel to run. "This ship, it is faster than us," Kever said, his voice a whisper. "Faster than anything I have ever seen." Relthor's compound eyes stayed fixed on the vessel. Its movement was purposeful, intelligent. It didn't simply pursue, it herded them, pushing them toward empty space, away from the nearest hyperlane beacon. "They're cutting us off," Relthor realized. Kever's claws tapped rapidly at the console. "I am detecting power buildup along its hull, unknown pattern." "It is," his voice broke. "Captain, I think it is preparing weapons." Relthor's mandibles clamped together. "Helm, break free, jump to FTL." But before they could engage their drives, the human ship released a single pulse of energy. Not a beam, not a torpedo, just a ripple. Every system on the Tvor Kesh died at once. The bridge was bathed in darkness, emergency lights struggling to ignite. Relthor's heart pounded as he realized they were dead in space, completely helpless. And then the transmission came. It was not in Olorian tongue, yet every member of the crew understood it. The voice was calm, cold, human. "You have scanned a Terran warship. You have seen what we are capable of. Leave this sector. Do not return." Static followed. "This is impossible," Kever said, almost to himself. "Terrans? That is a myth, primitive creatures who destroyed themselves millennia ago." Relthor stared at the glowing ship outside. "Does that look extinct to you?" Suddenly, the warship's lights dimmed again, its weapons powering down. Its engines flared once, and then it was gone, vanishing into FTL without leaving a trace. Power returned to the Tvor Kesh, systems rebooting one by one. But no one moved. No one spoke. Because every being on that bridge had felt it, terror, ancient and primal. And somewhere deep inside them, they knew this was not the last time they would see that ship. Chapter 3, The Message to the Stars. When the Tvor Kesh returned to Olorian High Command, the mood was grim. Relthor's report was replayed in the council chamber before the highest officials of the Empire. "You are certain of what you saw?" asked the High Chancellor. Relthor's mandibles clicked. "Yes, Excellency. I believe what we encountered was no mere derelict. It was alive. Intelligent. And it wished for us to see what it was capable of." "Terrans," another counselor said with disdain. "Stories to frighten hatchlings. You expect us to believe they survived their own wars?" Relthor's voice was calm but firm. "Believe what you wish. But I tell you this, the ship let us live. It could have annihilated us with a thought. I saw its weapon systems. We would not have lasted a heartbeat." The council chamber fell into uneasy silence. At last, the High Chancellor spoke. "We will classify this encounter. Until further notice, no ships will enter the Andoric expanse." But Relthor knew that would not be enough. Because in the nights that followed, as he drifted in uneasy sleep, the visions returned. Worlds burning. Fleets shattered. And the warship, always the warship, moving through the carnage like an executioner. It wasn't just a ship. It was a reminder. Humanity had not died out. They had hidden. They had rebuilt. And now, they were watching. Somewhere, in the cold dark of space, a Terran fleet was waiting. And if the galaxy was not careful, one day soon, it would wake them all. The Tvor Kesh lurched violently as the unknown vessel powered up, the sudden flare of energy reflecting across the bridge canopy like a miniature star being born. Sirens wailed, klaxons shrieked in overlapping pitches that sent tremors through every crew member's frill. The ship felt alive now, no longer a silent hulk drifting in the void, but a predator stirring, stretching, remembering what it was. "Helm, full reverse thrust. Get us clear." Captain Relthor's voice cut through the chaos, commanding but tight, betraying the pulse of fear running beneath his words. The helmsman's claws flew over the control panel, redirecting power to thrusters. The Tvor Kesh groaned under the stress as it pushed backward, its engine spitting ion trails into the dark. Yet no matter how much distance they tried to put between themselves and the Terran vessel, it followed, smooth, deliberate, unhurried. Like a wolf keeping pace with prey, it didn't need to rush. It knew it already controlled the hunt. "Captain, they're not firing," Kever said, his voice strained. His 4 eyes darted across multiple screens. "But, they're scanning us, deeper than we've ever been scanned before. It's not just systems, it's crew biosigns, genetic records, it's as if it's reading us." Relthor's mandibles clicked in agitation. "Open a channel. Send universal hails. Let them know we mean no harm." The comm officer nodded and activated transmissions, broadcasting across every known frequency. For long, suffocating seconds, there was no reply, only the eerie hum of the enemy ship's energy buildup resonating through space. Then the lights on the alien vessel's hull shifted, running like veins of white fire across its surface, converging on its bow. It was preparing to do something. Kever's frills flattened against his skull. "Captain, their energy readings are beyond anything in our archives. If they fire, They won't fire," Relthor said, though he wasn't sure whether he was reassuring his crew or himself. "They would have done so already if they wanted us destroyed." As if in answer, a sudden wave of energy burst from the Terran ship, not directed at them as a weapon, but radiating outward in a perfect sphere. The Tvor Kesh shuddered violently, its system sparking, displays going black one by one. The bridge was plunged into darkness, the hum of the engines replaced by a deathly silence. "Report!" Relthor barked. No one could. Every screen was dead. Every control unresponsive. The mighty Olorian warship had been turned into little more than a drifting shell. Then, through the darkness, came the voice. It was not transmitted through speakers. It was inside their minds, resonating like thunder in their skulls. Calm, cold, and unrelenting. "You have scanned a Terran warship. You have seen what we are capable of. Leave this sector. Do not return." The voice was not angry, not even hostile, just final. Absolute. And then it was gone. The bridge remained in shadow, but something had changed. Every member of the crew felt it, a presence had passed over them, through them, and left them small and shaken. "Captain," Kever's voice was barely audible, his frills trembling. "Terrans are supposed to be gone. They annihilated themselves in the last war of Sol. Every archive confirms it." Relthor turned slowly to face him, the dim emergency lighting casting long, jagged shadows over his mandibles. Perhaps that's what they wanted the galaxy to believe. A shudder passed through the deck as the Tvor Kesh's systems flickered back to life, one by one. Consoles rebooted, displays returned, power hummed faintly in the walls. But it was not their engineers who had restored them, they all knew that instinctively. The Terran ship had simply decided to give them back their control. "Captain, their vessel is powering engines," the helm officer reported. Relthor stepped to the viewport. The warship was glowing again, its drives igniting with a deep, resonant thrum that felt less like sound and more like a vibration in their bones. It lingered there for one last, tense moment, its silent silhouette framed against the stars. Then, with a single flare of light, it was gone. Not simply jumping to faster-than-light speed, gone as though space itself had folded around it, leaving no trace. The bridge was silent except for the sound of strained breathing. Every officer remained frozen at their stations, as though afraid to move, to speak, to even think too loudly lest the thing return. Kever finally broke the silence. "Captain, what if this is only one of them?" Relthor said nothing for a long moment. His mandibles worked soundlessly as he stared into the empty void where the ship had been. He felt something he hadn't felt since his first day as an officer, standing on the deck of his first command, fear. Then, he said at last, his voice quiet, "We must pray we never see the rest." The Tvor Kesh turned slowly, heading for the nearest hyperspace corridor. No one spoke for the entire journey. The stars stretched into lines, the blackness of real space giving way to the swirling colors of hyperspace. But even as they fled back to the safety of Alorian territory, the image burned in their minds, that dark, silent warship, waiting in the shadows. None of them doubted it would be there again, should they ever dare return. The Tvor Kesh emerged from hyperspace like a ghost, its hull still humming faintly from the encounter. The crew was silent as the Alorian capital came into view, its sprawling orbital rings glittering with city lights and defense platforms. Under normal circumstances, there would be chatter on the bridge, reports, navigation checks, status updates, but this time there was only the faint hiss of air recyclers and the occasional click of mandibles as officers swallowed hard against the weight pressing on them. Captain Relthor stood at the center of the bridge, his claws locked tightly behind his back. He had been preparing his report during the entire return trip, and yet now that the moment was here, he felt unsteady. How could he describe what they had seen without sounding unhinged? "Captain, High Command requests immediate debriefing," the comm officer said softly. Relthor gave a slow nod. "Tell them I will present my report in person. Assemble full sensor logs and recordings. No omissions." The council chamber was vast, carved from obsidian-like stone, lit by cold white strips that made the air itself feel sterile. At the center sat the High Chancellor, flanked by the 12 senior counselors of the Alorian Defense Directorate. As Relthor entered, the chamber quieted, dozens of multifaceted eyes following him. "You may proceed, Captain," the Chancellor said, her voice measured. Relthor activated the holoprojector. The image of the Terran warship appeared in the air between them, its dark silhouette rotating slowly. Murmurs rippled through the counselors. "This is the vessel we encountered on the edge of the Andoric expanse," Relthor began, his voice steady. "We attempted standard hails. There was no response. We performed long-range and deep scans, attempting to determine its origin and capabilities. At that point, the ship woke." He detailed the encounter step by step, the power surge, the transmission of visions, the EMP-like pulse that had disabled the Tvor Kesh, and the final warning. The holoprojector shifted to display sensor readings, energy levels that spiked off the charts, weapon systems of unknown configuration, and the moment where every system on the Alorian cruiser had gone dead. When he finished, the chamber was silent. At last, Counselor Vreth broke the stillness. "You are certain this was not a trick of some rival power? Perhaps a staged illusion?" Relthor's mandibles twitched, a gesture halfway between frustration and fear. "Counselor, with respect, illusions do not disable a military cruiser in seconds. Illusions do not scan crew down to their genetic code. This ship had the power to destroy us effortlessly. It did not. That was not mercy. That was a message. A threat," another counselor hissed. "Perhaps," Relthor admitted. "But perhaps it was something worse, a reminder. The message was clear: leave this sector. Do not return. And I advise we obey." The council chamber filled with hushed argument, mandibles clacking, voices overlapping. Finally, the High Chancellor raised a claw, silencing the noise. "Captain," she said, "your crew has corroborated your account?" "Yes, Chancellor." The Chancellor's compound eyes studied him for a long, heavy moment before she spoke again. "Then we will classify this incident. The Andoric expanse will be declared a restricted zone. No military or civilian vessels are to enter until further notice. This Terran warship is to be considered a potential Class Omega threat." Relthor bowed his head. "Understood." That night, Relthor could not sleep. The visions returned, flashes of ancient wars, cities turned to ash, fleets annihilated in blinding white light. He saw the Terran soldiers again, beings of flesh, but unyielding, fighting in the ruins of burning worlds. And always, he saw the ship, cutting through enemy lines like a living scythe. The visions did not frighten him as much as the feeling they carried: inevitability. Perhaps this was why the Terrans had shown them such things. Not to frighten them, but to teach them. To let them know what was coming if they ignored the warning. Relthor woke with a start, his breathing shallow. He crossed to the viewport of his quarters and looked out at the stars. They seemed different now, no longer distant, empty points of light, but a field hiding predators. Somewhere out there, he thought, there are more of those ships. Perhaps hundreds. Perhaps thousands. Watching. Waiting. And if the galaxy was foolish enough to provoke them, they would return. Not to send warnings, not to leave survivors, but to finish what they started long ago. The captain pressed a claw against the viewport. Let us hope, he whispered to the stars, that we never wake them fully. But deep down, in the quiet place of his mind he never spoke aloud, he knew it was too late. The galaxy had been noticed. And one day soon, the Terran fleet would rise again. When that day came, the galaxy would either kneel, or burn.